John Kim is in now from Rethink Reviews. We're going to review Bob Roberts this week. As usual, let's watch it, and then... that's very funny. I just noticed that on the back of your computer. Okay, let's watch it and then come back and talk.
Bob Roberts, of a very disturbing sort. I haven't any idea who he is. I haven't any idea what he's like. I don't think I'm supposed to have any idea. I know that he proved to be a master of pushing racist buttons and sexist buttons, this and that. The politics of emotion. He's very good at that. What's behind it? I don't see anybody at home. But I will say that once or twice in the course of our debate, I detected a slight whiff of sulfur in the air.
I'm a bleeding heart. Let's give money away to lazy people in the slums. I'm a bleeding heart. Let's eliminate our nuclear bombs. As can be our friends. Right. Don't vote if you believe in that. We'll be fine without you. It's plain to see what you believe will lead to anarchy.
When Scott Brown, the teabagger candidate, won the senatorial election in Massachusetts, I thought it would be fitting to review Bob Roberts, the very funny 1992 mockumentary written, directed, and starring Tim Robbins. With tributes to the Bob Dylan documentary Don't Look Back, it's the story of a folk-singing, conservative, faux populist who seemingly comes out of nowhere to challenge an incumbent Democrat for a Pennsylvania senatorial seat. But as I watched the film, it became clear that candidate Roberts isn't as much Scott Brown as Sarah Palin, whipping sellout crowds into a bigoted, conservative frenzy based on a cult of personality with not a single new, interesting, or effective idea to back it up. Did Robbins' film predict the future? Just check out Bob Roberts and see for yourself. Robbins, whose real-life liberal leanings should be a secret to no one, plays Roberts, an ultra-conservative who rebelled against his hippie parents by enrolling in a military college before going to Yale Business School and eventually becoming a Wall Street millionaire. Couching himself as a man of the people, he sings to sold-out teabagger-like crowds about topics like whining liberals, being rich, and how drug users should be hanged. Roberts is managed by an experienced, Dick Cheney-like Washington insider played by the incomparable Alan Rickman, and handled by a cheesy spin doctor played by Ray Wise. Roberts' opponent is an intelligent, earnest, aging Democrat named Brickley Paste, played by author, activist, and progressive hero Gore Vidal. Paste starts the film with a comfortable lead over Roberts, not unlike Martha Coakley in Massachusetts did, which erodes when rumors of an affair surfaced, most likely originating from the Roberts camp. The media, enamored by the young, fresh, charismatic Roberts, fails to challenge the veracity of this rumor and is content to simply repeat it, a media failure we would see again with the fake William Ayers controversy that dogged Obama. In fact, the only reporter who seems to be doing his job is a wild-eyed writer for a small independent newspaper, essentially a blogger, who attempts to uncover the truth behind Roberts' nonprofit organization Broken Dove and its connection to the CIA, Iran-Contra, and the savings and loan scandal. As we follow Roberts on the campaign trail, you see that he and his team have masterfully created the persona of what can only be called a conservative rebel, part Bob Dylan and part Ronald Reagan, adopting the style of 60s protest music while attacking everything the 60s stands for. Roberts plays to the anger of voters who have lost their jobs and are worried about the economy by attacking the poor and threatening to eliminate the social programs struggling Americans rely on. He preaches personal freedom while demonizing Americans who exercise it and don't share his narrow conservative values. He wants to lead America to a bright new future by taking America backwards, smiling while he plays pleasant, folksy music with lyrics by Rush Limbaugh. And with America gearing up for the first Gulf War, he's more than happy to play to the fear of foreign boogeymen while portraying his opponent as weak on defense. Roberts carefully dodges the issues, talking in well-crafted sound bites and offering few solutions, yet his supporters see him as a prophet and a visionary. But the fascistic undertones of his message aren't lost on his overwhelmingly white followers, best exemplified by a trio of clean-cut young men led by a very young and intense Jack Black, who are eager to be foot soldiers in Roberts' culture war. While Bob Roberts effectively skewers the right wing, it's also an indictment of our political system and media, which celebrates emotion over substance, personalities over plans, and would rather focus on fresh new faces than really listen to the words coming out of them. But when you watch Bob Roberts, it's almost impossible not to see the prototype of Sarah Palin, a fake populist with a contrived folksy persona who's really the champion of the rich, a demagogue promising a return to some mythical conservative fantasy country, who claims to speak for the real Americans, as opposed to the apparently fake Americans like myself and probably you watching this. Someone whose strength stems from the anger, racism, intolerance, and ignorance of his followers, which he's only too happy to stoke if it wins an election, and someone with absolutely no solutions for how to make this country a better place. Probably the main difference is that Bob Roberts does all this with a voice that doesn't make you want to stab out your eardrums. I'm Jonathan Kim, and this is a Rethink Review.
Damn it, John. How many of these movies do I have to see?
So you haven't seen this movie before?
No, I haven't seen Bob Roberts. Now I got to go rent this. Like, I'm like 12 movies deep with this Rethink Reviews business.
Well, good.
All right, so what you didn't say, though, was you explained what it was, and it sounds great, but did they execute it well? Did you like the movie?
Yeah, I did. It's very funny, and like I said, it's kind of based after the documentary Don't Look Back about Bob Dylan. I mean, because Tim Robbins' character is a folk singer, and some of the shots are actually composed just like the shots in Don't Look Back. But yeah, I mean, when you look at how kind of prescient the movie is, how it really kind of predicted a lot of this, and there's talk about like WMDs, and there's also a part where, I mean, because this came out before Fox News, and there's a part where there's this woman is interviewing Bob Roberts, and she doesn't like him, and she's asking him kind of pointed questions, and he's like, "You weren't balanced in that, like, you weren't fair in the in the interview. You have to hide your emotions if you're going to be a good journalist." And she's like, "No, like I have to say the truth," because at one point he says like, the 60s were a time of just a lot of corruption and lying and really a dark stain on our country's history, and she's like, "You mean like the bombing of Cambodia and Watergate?" And he's like, "No, I mean like drugs and free love and stuff like that."
And Yale Business School, a guy who is kind of a blank slate, but et cetera, of course reminded me of Bush too. And of course this was way before George W. Bush became president. So who directed the movie?
Tim Robbins directs it.
Oh, Tim Robbins directs it.
Yeah, wrote, directed, and stars.
Okay, so it was prescient, but you liked it too. I mean, it wasn't.
Yeah, and it's also interesting because like Alan Rickman's character is like his manager, but he's a guy who it turns out he's a lot like Dick Cheney, sort of deep in the CIA, deep into like these black ops stuff, but just will never let it out, and goes on trial, basically stonewalls everything, and then gets let off by Republican allies.
Yeah, but that would never happen in real life. Like Scooter Libby wouldn't eventually. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, so and I was like, who's that young guy? I know that young guy. He looks really familiar. And then you're like, oh, Jack Black. Oh, that's so messed up.
He was like 22 or 23, but it's interesting because like he's so intense that he is very magnetic. And if you'd never seen him before, you'd be wondering, who is that kid? I want to see more of him. And also he and his.
I'm not sure I would have thought that because he's always gotten on my nerves. But
right,
he's a good guy. For some reason it just doesn't.
Yeah, this one, I mean, he does great because he's just like this excitable young kid. And it's not like jumping and doing karate kicks and doing a lot of jokes. He's just really, really into Bob Roberts. And when they're at his shows and they're cheering for him, they just put their hands up like a Sig Heil.
And it seems to say. Do you have the first? Let me do this before I get to the media point. Do you have some of the lyrics?
Yes,
from the songs.
So one of the songs is called "Complain." And it says, some people have, and the lyrics are, some people must have, some people have not, but they'll complain and complain and complain and complain. Some people will work, some people will not, but they'll complain. Like this, it's society's fault. I don't have a job. It's society's fault. I'm a slob. I have potential no one can see. Give me welfare. Let me be me. Bud, you're living in the land of the free. No one's going to hand you opportunity. See, I don't have a house. I don't have a car. I spend all my money getting drunk in a bar. I want to be rich. I don't have a brain. Just give me a handout while I complain.
No, but that's the problem with candidates like this, whether it's in the movie or it's Sarah Palin or it's George Bush, et cetera, which is that they complain about welfare. Meanwhile, they give away the biggest welfare to American companies, right, and to multinational companies. And we talked about it in the first 2 hours today. The whole government, the Republican Party and a lot of the Democratic Party is structured to give away billions, trillions of dollars in welfare to corporate America, right? But when it comes to helping the poor, these guys come out and pretend to be against welfare, right? And they pretend to, and they go and crush the poor because they say, oh, government handouts are bad. But the whole candidate, and we've seen it in real life after the movie, the whole candidate is structured to give away your money, our money, government money to the richest people in the country and in the world. Right?
Yeah, I mean, like the idea with like accusing Obama and Democrats of socialism, yet with corporations, they privatize the profits and socialize the losses. And then, of course, you have Sarah Palin in Alaska, where the oil profits are socialized. Yet, I think she was asked that one time and just came just some garbled nothing answer to explain how somehow that's not the case. But that's exactly what they do. If you live in Alaska, you're just given a check for oil profits.
Yeah, I don't make that point enough. Sarah Palin's a communist. Okay. because if you know how that program worked, she got to 80% popularity by taking oil company money and giving it to the citizens. There was simply no more socialist program in the whole United States of America. So, putting aside the communist ha-ha, he-he stuff, seriously, it is literally true that Sarah Palin was the biggest socialist in the country, okay? And that's how she got popular. And then they take, everything's flipped on its head. So then they take her popularity, which was because of socialism, and not like fake socialism, real socialism, and they turn around and say she was popular because she was a Republican. I mean, it's irony on top of irony, and that leads me to my final point, John, which is the problem with this is it is so enabled by the media, right? The media allows this kind of illusion to take on, doesn't allow it, it encourages it. So when it sees an empty candidate like Bob Roberts, Sarah Palin, maybe even Scott Brown, depending on how Scott Brown, he hasn't done a lot of terrible, evil things yet, so we don't know, and maybe he'll turn out to be a decent guy. Sometimes people surprise you, right? But he didn't say much during the campaign. So, he said he was going to be an obstructionist. So, if he delivers on that, at least he was being honest there. But so let's stick with Sarah Palin and Bush and those guys. They hide their ignorance. They hide their real agenda. They hide the giveaways to the rich, etc. So, John, it leads me to the eternal question, which I've been asking for, I guess, the 8 years now that we've been doing this show. Are they in on it, or are they stupid, as far as the media is concerned?
Right. I mean, it's a tough call because I think that I was working on the Fox Attack stuff at Brave New Film for so long. There's the balance illusion, which is so strong, where it's like, if you have someone lying for 2 minutes, if you have someone telling the truth for 2 minutes, you have to have someone lying for 2 minutes. And then you don't say which is which. And you say, all right, next segment, and you just kind of move on. And I don't know. I think they're scared. They don't want. They believe the liberal media bias. And it might be because they kind of feel that in their heart, but they're not actually doing it on TV. But they're overcompensating to make sure it doesn't seem that they're doing it. So they actually give the advantage to the other side.
All right. Let me give you a quick preview of not something that's coming up next week or next month, or I'm not even sure it'll be next year. But I'm coming after this nonsense. Okay. That talking point about liberal media bias, I'm going to try to. At first single-handedly, and then, of course, gathering up everybody together, we're going to crush that, okay? It's 100% nonsense. The American media is completely and utterly conservative, and we're going to prove that over the next set of years, and we're going to stop this nonsense. I mean, they already told you in '92 with Bob Roberts' movie what they were going to do, and then they did it. They did it with Bush, and now they want to do it with Palin. So enough is enough. Let's go stop this nonsense.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw Eric Bowler talking about that on Media Matters, that at the Tea Party convention, there was this crazy birther guy who was invited on stage and gave a long speech and was paid to be there. And then Palin comes up and gives her speech, and he was saying, if in the first year of Yearly Coast, if Gore was giving a speech and they had some truther guy come out, before him or after him, that would have been the whole story. Was, Gore with the truthers, the blogosphere is like a bunch of crazies. It would have been done, squashed, like the blogosphere, the lefty blogosphere would have been crushed forever. Yet Tea Party does this, and it's all considered five, and that guy got a standing ovation for his speech.
Let alone Tancredo's opening speech, which was maniacal, let alone the fact that they had a third of the people that the liberal conventions, the Netroots Nation has, and yet that convention gets almost no coverage. I mean, it goes on and on. I could show you literally like dozens, maybe hundreds, maybe thousands of examples of conservative media bias. All right, you know what? I'm going to attack it. End of this. All right, Jonathan Kim's from Rethink Reviews. Check out Rethink Reviews on YouTube, Huffington Post, and rethinkreviews.net. All right, we'll come right back. Young Turks.